Hello and welcome to Bettering Our Community. I'm your host, Tiffany Dunyan, and today I have in studio with us independent producer Aaron Foss, talking with us about his new documentary, State of Addiction, the New Hampshire Opioid Crisis. Aaron, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you for speaking with me, Tiffany. It's nice to be here.
So I understand this was quite an epic project.
It was. It took around 6 months to make, from beginning to end. We really wanted to get out there and talk to everybody from all aspects of this crisis and people who are taking it on, people who are affected by it. So we wanted to get everybody's opinion. That was the whole point of New Hampshire Speaks, is really that we want to go out and talk to people in the community, people right here directly involved in the state in fighting the crisis. So we went out and we contacted politicians, law enforcement, medical professionals. We sought out people who used opioids and had substance abuse disorder, or people who had lost loved ones because of it, and really just kind of an all-encompassing viewpoint, because we wanted every perspective covered. So we went out and did that, and that was time-consuming to piece together, but I'm very happy with the end results. We really got coverage from every point of view that we wanted to with the movie.
Well, it makes sense also why you call your production company New Hampshire Speaks, is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
Okay, talk to us a little bit about that and who you are as well.
I am originally from Salem, just down the road. I lived there for most of my life. I moved up here to Derry about 3 years ago, and really when I think the whole thing happened, where I first took notice of it, I knew that there was a kind of a spike in opioid things, but there was, what happens often is there's a bad batch sold out, and it has a high amount of fentanyl in it, and then when the dealers go and sell that to people, a town can, they're in the same area, so there's people in the same town dying from the same batch. And there was a day about, I think it was 2014, in the summer 2014, where Salem had 3 people die in the same day of, they suspected the same batch. So that's when I kind of took notice of the opioid thing and how it was specifically in New Hampshire is one of the top affected states in the entire country right now. And I wanted to just touch on it. I had friends who had lost, one lost a sister, one lost a brother, who's actually featured in the movie. And once you start knowing people who are passing away from it, that just got me more interested in seeing what it was about, because I didn't know a lot about it. So I learned a lot while I was making the documentary too.
I'm sure. So this became real for you, and you did your own research to do your own documentary, so you could kind of maybe put the pieces together and understand it?
Yes. And that was, the part about New Hampshire Speaks is that we, like I said, we wanted to get out in the community, and this has been such an issue that's been politicized nationally. And as we were rolling out of, finally, the election season that's been going on for, almost the past 2 years, the opioid crisis was something that was always brought up as, how do we fund it and how do we fight it? And there's a lot of people in the state who, once the politicians leave, and besides the local and state ones who are, have been very effective at fighting the crisis here, the national spotlight, when it goes away from the crisis, needs to be focused, especially in states like New Hampshire that are specifically affected very hard by this. And New Hampshire Speaks is just, as a whole, if you want to go and find us on Facebook.com, New Hampshire Speaks on Facebook, where we have all our videos that we're going to be posting. But it's really getting out there and hearing the people from New Hampshire speaking. We heard a lot of politicians say what they would do who were from very far away, but I wanted to know what was going on here and what people were doing here to help the crisis. So that was what we did with this opioid one. We have other pieces and other subjects we want to go cover too, and you can find us on Facebook if you want to.
That's great. It sounds like you're covering quite a few different topics as well, which will be interesting to see.
It should be fun. There's a lot of interesting people to talk to.
Yeah.
In the state.
Well, it sounds like you've made quite the rounds. So when you started this documentary, what did you think you would find? Did you have any preconceived notions?
I didn't really know. I didn't know what to expect. I knew that opioids were something that an entire scope of people really, and as the documentary touches on, there's no race or religion or orientation or gender or age group that isn't affected by this. The only one that there was a slight reduction in was children under the age of 18. There was a slight drop in their heroin use, which is about 0.3%, which is obviously good. You don't want children using heroin, but for every single adult, religion and race and ethnicity, men and women both, people had started using and the rates were rising. And I wanted to know why that was happening, and I didn't know why. And I think there's a lot of people we talked to in the documentary who tell us why they think it happened and what they're doing to combat it now. And I think it's a good thing that we're doing that.
So what would you say surprised you as you were doing your research and putting this documentary together? What surprised you the most?
One thing was that I didn't know is that the elderly community, and specifically in New Hampshire, we have a growing elderly community. Young people are leaving the state, but the elderly population is growing. And also in Vermont, up here as well, where opioid use is very
rampant.
It's rampant as well, specifically in Vermont. But the elderly population is a group that people don't usually think of as using opioids, but it turns out that their rates are rising as well. People over 65, people who are retired, a lot of them have money from savings. And we talked to some people who, not in this documentary, but we're in touch with people who had lost their life savings, spending it on drugs or selling their house they'd lived in until for 60 years for drugs. And the drugs that they were usually doing were ones that doctors were prescribing them because it's so much easier for them. They have aches and pains and maybe more prevalent diseases. So it's much easier for elderly people who are abusing to get them because there might be a drug that they're using that they're overusing or is actually prescribed to them. But the rise in elderly abuse I thought was really concerning, because I like to think as the older generation, as you know, is almost like you should know better. Yeah, you should have taught us better than we did.
That is a staggering statistic, if you will, or a staggering notion. I wouldn't have thought about it, but it does make sense since they have the liquid cash, they have the aches and pains, and that makes perfect sense.
And it just goes to show you again that there's no group that's untouched, including elderly people as well have been affected by this.
Well, it sounds like your piece is very timely as well. What has been your response, the response that you've received so far?
The response has been positive. We're out, in addition to showing it here at DTV and putting it out there to other people anybody who wants to view it. Have scheduled viewings in libraries and schools, colleges. We're being in touch with high schools and colleges, and anybody who wants to show the movie or see it online and screen it. That's what it's there for. It is actually a resource video as in terms of a documentary, but we do include the phone numbers in the piece for different centers and substance abuse programs where people can go get help around the state, and those are interspersed throughout the movie. So if you are somebody who has substance abuse and you're watching this and you don't know who to call, you can sit there, hit pause, and dial a number right there. And they're for places throughout the state, Manchester, Nashua, the Seacoast as well. And there is a national hotline number that anybody in the state can call at any time who has substance abuse that can call that number and get help with no judgment made. And there's also Safe Station in Manchester and other communities. But if anybody is out there watching this or watching the documentary at any point and they wanted to seek help, please go to Manchester, New Hampshire Fire Departments, and they will get you all the help that you need. No questions asked. You can get medical help, and they will put you in touch with somebody who can help you, hopefully down the road to recovery.
Well, it sounds like you've done your due diligence. So who should watch this documentary and why?
I think anybody should. I think anybody who doesn't know can learn about it. As I did while I was making it, I learned a lot, like I said, and I think obviously the people that I want to see it are people who, if you're using, like I said, the resources and numbers are there for you. So if you're watching this movie and you suffer and you need help, please go seek it. But I think anybody can learn a lot, especially about what's going on at the local level. We went out and we talked to police lieutenant from right here in New Hampshire, down in Pelham, Lieutenant Ann Piriello, and she is out there every single day, right on the border with Lowell, which is a place where Lowell, Mass. They're bringing the opioids into New Hampshire, up to Canada, Vermont, and Maine, directly from Lowell and Lawrence. And she's right there on the border town, or slightly right next to the border town with Lowell, and they find things all the time. We also talked to the paramedics in Nashua, the AMR paramedic led by Chris Stawas, a paramedic for over 30 years, and he told us that the numbers of opioid addictions that they're seeing now are like they've never seen before. And he's somebody who's out there day to day dealing with this, watching people overdose and trying to revive them, trying to save them. We talked to Senator Shaheen, sat down with us as well, Senator Jean Shaheen, who's been in Washington fighting for the CARA bill and other things. So we kind of cover what's going on locally in terms of law enforcement, we also go behind and talk to Dr. Cynthia Whitaker. I'm sorry, from Nashua, and she told us what substance abuse disorder is. So we start right at the beginning, where this is what it is, and it is a disease. It is not a moral failure or somebody not having willpower. And this is the view of all medical professionals now. So the doctors and police and firefighters, paramedics, politicians that we talk to are from right here in the state. It's not people telling us from far away what's going on here. It's people who deal with it on a day-to-day basis and see what's going on with it every day. And those are the people we wanted to talk to and find out what was going on from.
Yeah, well, it sounds like you're helping destigmatize through this information.
Absolutely.
And it also sounds like it would be good for anybody. It seems like the people that I know and have talked to as well, everybody has been affected directly or indirectly in the state of New Hampshire. And
if you haven't been yet, you will be in the future, and
right.
you're one of the lucky few now who doesn't know somebody. So
right.
It will be coming. So
it sounds like it's a very timely subject matter. So what do you hope this documentary will empower or inspire in the community?
If I am somebody who's always liked movies, especially documentaries. I remember in ninth grade, we sat there in the old Ken Burns Civil War documentary that people had their heads down on their desks. They were asleep or reading books, and I was sitting there rapt at attention, and it was just a camera going by, still pictures with narrations from people, and I was mesmerized by it. And all 9 hours of it, I own at home on DVD. So
wow.
So I love documentaries, and I learned a lot doing it. And I think people who, there's something that you want to know in terms of making movies, go out and find more information, talk to people, and if there's something that you can share with other people and you like making movies, go ahead and do it. From a filmmaker's perspective, and from a creative perspective as well, I think those are important things that people go out there and learn things for themselves and take down things like the stigmatization around opioid, do your own research and find out the information, because it's out there if you want to find it. And in terms of if it has an effect on somebody, I don't know if it will. If somebody calls a number and gets help, you never know. But that's my other hope, is that if somebody will see it and it'll help somebody at some point.
Well, absolutely. So how long is the documentary? It
is around 85 minutes, so it is an investment of time. Though people binge watch Netflix, so I suggest if you turn on Netflix, turn it off rather, or turn off your on-demand, put this on, or view it. It's also online, so you can go right back and your YouTube will be right there where you left off, and get through it like that. I personally like long form, so it's
You had a lot to say.
It is. There was a lot to say, and we talked to a lot of people. There's a lot of good information. We let everybody speak to what they wanted to, and included everything. And we asked everybody, the last question we asked every single person was, is there anything that you'd like to tell us? And I thought that was important too, because that's where we got a lot of their own personal opinion on what's going on, and how they, as a person who's involved with this crisis every day, think that this state, specifically in New Hampshire, can do better in terms of funding, or do better in terms of writing legislature, or just having the stigma around opioid abuse go away.
Right. Well, besides speaking to the infrastructure that is supporting opioid addiction recovery, I understand that you also talk to actual heroin addicts.
Yes. And
you hit the streets. So can you talk to us a little bit about what you found so interesting about speaking to them? What did they have to say?
We did man on the street interview. New Hampshire Speaks. That's what we do. We're going to do it. We've done that in other pieces we've done too, to go out on the street, microphone and camera, and ask people what they thought. There's a segment of the movie where we went out and just asked basic questions about opioids, and if you knew what are opioids, who is affected by opioids, what are your preconceived notions about people who use opioids, questions like that. And we got a variety of answers from people who seemed knowledgeable. Some were knowledgeable, unfortunately, because they had gone through it, watching somebody suffer from substance abuse, and other people had known people who had passed away. So some people were very informed in an unfortunate way.
Right.
Other people were just, as it was a big national thing going on, people hadn't tried to inform themselves. Other people had never heard of it and just kind of talked about what they had, their preconceived notions of it. And I think that's important to show that there are people who are being informed, and there are people who are still not informed, but there were people who absolutely knew everything that was going on with it, and I thought that was good. It shows that, yeah, there's very diverse groups of people that we talked to, different ages and everything. And I thought it was a positive thing to know that people were becoming educated.
So you found that it ran the gamut and also probably provides a component of relatability to viewers out there.
Absolutely.
Well, that's great, Aaron. Anything else that you would like to add?
Well, yeah, again, if you want to see our movie, it will be airing on DTV. We are holding screenings throughout the state. We'll post those on our Facebook page when one of them comes up. Those will be going on throughout the year. And the video will be right there online the same day that it begins airing on DTV.
Awesome.
And if people want to go check that out or check out other things, you can go on Facebook and New Hampshire Speaks and like us there, and then we'll pop up right there every day. And I want to thank the people at DTV for helping me with this documentary as well. There's a lot of support and help around here in terms of putting this together that I appreciate. So,
well, excellent.
Yes.
We can't wait to see it.
I can't wait for people to see it. That was why you made it. Why you make the movie. So people will at some point be able to watch it.
Watch it and
Yes.
learn something from it. So that contact information again for anybody that would like to get in touch with you.
On Facebook.com/New Hampshire Speaks.
Excellent.
Yes.
Excellent. I've been speaking today with independent producer Aaron Foss about his up-and-coming documentary, State of Addiction, the New Hampshire Opioid Crisis. Stay tuned to the DTV schedule for when it airs. For Derry Community Television and Bettering Our Community, my name's Tiffany Dunyan. Thank you so much for watching.